Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite paranormal investigator here. My name would be Tim Sedano. It still is, actually, but it's just not showing up right there because we have a little bit of business to take care of. Anyway, this is Paranormal Insight. And if you want to watch the show live and or chat with us, here is the link you follow at youtube.com/paranormal_insight/streams. Or if you just want to go and find the green PI under Paranormal Insight, you got to click on the live tab because for whatever reason, maybe I have too many fantastic videos. I don't know. All the streams for the last year, I don't know why, but all streams for last year are only under the live tab. YouTube's strange, but they do put the show out, so that's okay, I guess. Let me know if I'm a little hot on the mic. It sounds okay on my end, but I'm getting a lot of peaking on my little monitor here. But that is neither here nor there. We may have gotten cut off at the very beginning, so my apologies if there was some confusion there. But welcome to the show nonetheless. Today's show is about why or how, or we're going to explore at least why UFOs, or UAPs if you prefer, tend to like military bases and combat zones. It's a very good question, isn't it? Let's start off with a little history. At one point, let me also say that as we have seen in multiple in past episodes even of this show, that there was a let's see here, trying to find a good image for us to focus on. That isn't it. Okay. That UFOs have been visiting this planet or been a part of this planet's background, I guess you can say, for lack of a better term, for a very, very long time. Including our let's see. So I'm just trying to find the image I'm looking for. I'm sorry, including antiquity, cave paintings. We've seen that in cave paintings. In fact, let me call up that key slideshow from before, which again, I'm sorry whoever put this together originally went this route because I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but they drew little boxes around what were the UFOs, but this is kind of to enhance my point more than anything. There it is. So they've showed this as an example where UFOs that showed up on our cave paintings. Okay, so they've been around for a long time. We've all heard about the shields and stuff. Actually, this is the picture I was looking at before. This is from the 12th century. We talked a little bit about this last time. And apparently, again, down here in the corner, allow me to zoom in. So these things crashed into the field and started burning it, which is really interesting. Look how tiny this town is compared to the mayhem overhead. I just found that super fascinating. But look, okay, this is again from the 12th or 13th century. Based on this dress, I'm going to say 12th. The dress of these guys down here. Say, oh, lurky, what's happening in the heavens? Anyway, so this is apparently a UFO battle. And I want you to take a special note of this guy right up here. I'm going to zoom in on them. See this silver guy here? They called those things beams. I know you're thinking, Tim, that looks more like a beam, but this is a beam, and that was reported as far back as the Roman occupying area. And I mean Roman, like in the heart of freaking Rome itself, a couple of these things erupted out of the ground. And then I want you to take a look and went after something like cruise missiles or something, or I don't know, some alien version of ICBMs from ancient Rome are reported numerous times just erupting out of the ground and going after something in the sky, followed by an explosion. And then I want you also to look at this one, the cross. We've seen variations of this as a UFO show up in our historical lore, witnessed by thousands. There was a soldier, I think he was a crusader. Maybe he was a leader in the Crusades. They see this in the sky, and they take it as an omen that God is on their side. But it turned out this thing was actually kind of moving in the way that we would describe as UFO activity. I mean, classic saucer stuff. There was also a Roman general, going back to Roman times again, or fast forwarding Roman times, where they said they saw not a cross, but something. Well, I'll just put the orb up there, But they saw a shield, what they described as a shield. And now Roman shields are shaped kind of differently. They're almost what you call there's a name for it too. They're concavish a little bit, and they're about 3/4 or 2/3 the length of a person or a soldier. I guess the Roman soldier back in the day. Heavy as all get out, but this is what he saw in the sky. Whether it was actually, I have to go back a second on that story, because I can't remember if he saw a round shield closer to a saucer or if he saw a classic Roman shield. But nonetheless, this Roman general saw it. It's an omen from whoever. I think they said the gods back then. I don't know if they had if the Eastern Empire was up and running where they believed in the Catholic God, but that could be the case. So a little bit of history there. We have been seeing these saucers, these things, these craft for throughout our history, really. And here's another fun little image. So we've been seeing these craft throughout our history. But I want you to take note, with the exception of that painting in the 13th century, and perhaps even the cave painting. Well, I'll include that, the cave painting that we just saw. When these things are seen en masse by a lot of people, it's during a conflict. I mean, a war, The Crusaders saw the cross in the sky. Well, there were a bunch of people who saw it. It was reported on both sides of that battlefield. Same thing with the Roman general. He saw the shield in the sky, and that was seen and reported on both sides of that battlefield. So they seem to be these, craft, and those operating it, whether remotely or live, seem to be really super interested in our conflicts. You know what? I'm going to take that banner off for now. And hey, there's my name. So welcome to the show, number one person. I think it's Heidi, but I'm not sure. But I just saw one of the little eyeball icons shift as far as numbers go. But anyway, these things seem to love it, or I don't know about love it, but seem to be super interested when we go into conflict with ourselves across the globe, across history. Again, the exception being that weird star battle over that 12th or 13th century town that the painting depicted in the cave art. I don't know. Maybe there were warring tribes. I couldn't speak to that one way or another. But nonetheless, always in conflict. And then around just after the U.S. specifically uses nuclear weapons over Japan, then things really ramp up. It seems like we caught the interest of everybody, not just the 3 or 4 occasional alien things we saw in the sky. And that's not to say that that was the only ramp up in activity. We can go back in history yet again to all the I guess the principalities and nation states of India, which they heavily documented not only interactions with, I think they call them Vermana, the craft that they built. I wish I had a picture of Vermana so I could speak to that better, but I don't, unfortunately. But pardon me. Mm-hmm. Sorry, the mustache is getting in the way. It's time for a trim. Okay, so not only the Vermana, but there have been other ancient such wars that have brought in, I guess, curious onlookers studying our ways and why we go to war and yada, 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 yada. And then again, we go to the 1950s and there's this uptick in activity. Plus we have the 47 Roswell crash, and now we're more heavily involved. And if you recall last week's thing, darn it, I did it again. There we go. If you recall last week's idea, some of this stuff is from 47. I think the earliest one is that 47, the weird little, pork pie hat type things there. 69, 65, 50. Okay, maybe I was wrong. 54. But look where they're from. 1950. That's Trent, USA. That's kind of like the pork pie hats there, but more like that. Anyway, sorry, this stuff I can nerd out on the shape and design of these craft forever. But these things show up in our skies, and we keep reporting them throughout history. And then, with 47, we had the Roswell crash. And then we become more involved, and people will start reporting these things more and more because it was in the news. It was suddenly accepted by society a little bit until 53, when I think you heard me go on my very long, very exasperated tirade about 1953 government just squashing the idea and start telling everyone, well, you don't think you really saw what you think you saw, and even having that trickle down to local law enforcement in the various states, counties, cities, what have you, parishes. So yeah, but here's where things get a little extra weird, and I'll go back to this little. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Big surprise! I clicked the wrong button. So let's go back to this image just for now as I read something to you. In 1966, you've probably heard the story before. But in 1966, at the Minot Air Base in North Dakota, several incidents were reported where radar tracked unidentified objects hovering near nuclear missile silos, which included temporary disruptions not only in the base communications, but in the entirety of the launch systems. They could hit the button right there and launch it, but nothing would happen. To launch it, I should say, but nothing would happen. The computers or the mechanisms or whatever were completely shut down, and they couldn't talk outside at all or to each other. Ooh. Around this same time, I think maybe a year before or a year later, there is a similar disruption at a Russian nuclear site. The name of the base escapes me, but similar to ours, they have nuclear launch capabilities, and this thing shuts them down completely. Now, why does this happen? I think we may have to go back in time just a little bit to 1953 or 54, when Eisenhower has his tooth issue that takes 2 weeks to fix, a chipped tooth, where he is reportedly meets up with two different alien factions, one at Travis and the other one may have been at Vandenberg. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, as we remember the story, let me get Ike's picture up here because I think it's important just to get an image of the guy, if we can. Let's see here. Nope. Yeah, there it is. Whoops. Sorry. Having fun with the machine here. All right, let me get Ike up here somewhere. There he is. There's Ike. Let me get rid of some of this stuff in the background because it's not really. Are we having fun yet? There we go. Double click. You know, it's a pain in the butt sometimes, these slides. Anyway, so there's Ike. Eisenhower has this meeting with two different alien factions. The first one he meets are the Nordics. And here's something they insist upon. Turn off or deactivate your nuclear missile systems. And we'll bump you up 200-300 years in technology pretty much overnight. And another group, they warn now, this isn't always mentioned, but they warn that there's another group of aliens that are circling the southern hemisphere of your planet. They want to talk to you too. We recommend you don't. They're not the best people in the world, and it ends up being the Greys. Whether it's the tall Greys, the short Greys, or some combination thereof, I don't, one, recall, or two, ever recall it being mentioned. I mean, most of this is third-hand knowledge passed on by someone who had third-hand knowledge and showed up on a larger show than mine. So I'm doing a little bit of recall on my side of things. And PW75 is here with us. Good to see you there. How's it going? Oh, show comments on the stage. Oh, I see. Never mind. Anyway, so first group is the Nordics. They say, get rid of your nuclear weapons. He says, let me consider it. As he's considering things, the second group of aliens, he has the meeting with them. I think it's the Greys, tall, short, both. I'm not sure which. And they say, you know what? We're going to give you some technology. You can reverse engineer it, toy with it all you want, get it to where you can, do a slow drip integration of the technology into your society, or you can, do whatever you want with it. But he said, well, the other guys wanted to take down my nukes. And he says, we don't care if you keep your nukes. We don't care. So obviously he follows that thing. Now, why? Strategically speaking, from a military perspective, and remember the guy was a 4 or 5 star general by the time he entered the presidency. From a strategic background, whether, I don't know, if someone from outside that I have almost no prior contact with shows up with a gift of technology, for example, and says, or one caveat is take away your nukes. That says to me from a military perspective, they are vulnerable to nuclear attack, and therefore they want us to take away our only means of defending ourselves if they go off script, so to speak, or become hostile once we finish that task. The other group says we don't care, and since he kind of followed those guys in instead of the Nordics, who I think, if we were to take into consideration and believe and take a leap of faith there, or a leap of belief anyway, that at the time, the Greys, or at least the Tall Greys, and the Nordics were not getting along. But nowadays, I'm not sure when this happened, they are. So they're on the same team now, for the most part. And anyway, so they have this difference of philosophy. And the Greys would later kind of prove to us rather, in one way or another, interesting. I'll get to PW's comment there in a second. I forgot my train of thought now. Good times, Tim. Good times. There it goes again. Lost the train of thought. Good times. Wow, this is embarrassing. So, yeah, dead air, Tim. Okay, let's get back to it. This guy says yes to the Greys. Now the Greys and the Nordics are kind of friends, according to some sources. And, so the Greys would later demonstrate to one degree or another, mostly, and I say that because the Greys are apparently the ones with the circular classic saucer type craft, in this vein here. Whereas the Nordics tend to like the more angular craft, triangles and Star Destroyer shaped diamond type things. They seem to like angular stuff. And if we're to look at Danan, oh my gosh! First, her last name is Danan. She has this big map of aliens that she's aware of. The Nordics tend to like more classic starships that we would probably put into space, and that our fictions have put into space, like the X-wing or even the later Peregrine fighters from Star Trek, which was very sparingly used. Polar Knights, welcome. Anyway. So the Nordics tend to like the pointier ships, whereas the Greys like the rounder ships. And these discs, these saucers, are the ones being reported at bases, shutting them down, their communications and nuclear capability, which is, you want nukes? Yeah, sure. Click. No, you don't get nukes. Sorry. What a demonstration of power. It's pretty. Yeah, it is wild that they can do that, for sure. So, and again, welcome, Polar Knights. PW had a comment about Al Bella. Sorry, let me zoom in on that for a sec. Al Bellick and Preston Nichols from the Montauk Project, and he couldn't work out if Andrew Basiago, who's a third person, suddenly in this thing, was a shill or not. Quite possibly. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Not at all. But I don't recognize, at least from my recollection, that particular interview. So, PW asked a very interesting question. It's kind of related to this, but I'll put it up there. And it kind of speaks to a bunch of different things, because I just saw an old clip, and I forget the fella who put it out there, but it's from like the late 60s, early 70s, and this guy's doing a talk, and apparently a visitor comes down to Earth, talks with our president at the time, 70s. So Carter, maybe this is what sparked Carter's initial interest. Who knows? PW has lots of questions for me today. I'll get to that one in a minute. So let me tackle the solar system one. So the story goes that this creature lands, and he's kept in waiting for a while, like in a holding cell kind of a thing. A little bit nicer, hopefully, and we didn't have bad relations, and he's there for like a day or two. And his claim is, I have something for the president and then for the world. But I wanted to come to the U.S. first, because they seem to be a little more on track with what I'm used to as far as government goes. We found the U.S. way, at least this is what's reported, to be a little bit more in line with the way we work, which is democratically, yada, yada, yada. So they keep him in a holding cell. They make sure he isn't a spy or some sort of actor or a wackadoo or something like that. Their terms, not mine. And this person is assigned to him as a liaison, and he's the one asking these preliminary questions. It's Heidi in the chat. Good day to you as well. No, do your things. Do your thing, Heidi. Well, you're welcome to just listen. You don't have to watch me. So he asked the question, who are you? And he gives them this name that sounds kind of made up. I'm not going to lie to you. But the name he provides is something Bellow Thor, like God of Thunder Thor. Oh, yeah? Where are you from? Venus. No, you're not. We sent a probe to Venus. You're not from Venus. Life, the surface of Venus can't support life. No, you're right. We're from underground. On Venus. Oh, okay. Good answer. What are you doing here? Well, I got a gift for your people, and here it is. It's a little box or device that will eliminate or allow you to eliminate all disease on the planet forever, and it'll extend your lifespan by 3 times. Good deal. Okay. So they take the box, they examine it, yada, yada, yada. Finally gets to the president. It's something like 3 or 4 weeks later. This guy's been sitting in a cell, and he's saying, nice as can be, this individual apparently looks humanoid, very much like us. He's very patient, and then president takes a look at this device. His advisors advise him on this device, and the president apparently, either, if not in person, he sends his rep or a representative and says, thank you so much for this gift, but we are unable to accept it because it could potentially collapse our economy overnight if we provide instantaneous healing and lifespan extension for every single person on Earth. So we can't really afford to have that happen. Thanks, but no thanks, basically. And this guy's released, and he goes home. So are the planets in our solar system inhabited? At least according to that story, the underground of Venus is. Subterranean world on Venus is. People have hinted that the planetoid, like I guess the leftover core of called Circe, Circe's or Ceres? Oh gosh, in our asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, are is inhabited as well, also subterranean. There's rumors that one, if not both moons of Mars are occupied, and there's also rumors that the underground of Mars is occupied. Again, rumors here say you can't verify any of this stuff. Yeah. I agree. So PW's got a lot to say. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening here. So yeah, I mean, Ceres, Mars, and its moons, possibly Titan on Jupiter, around Jupiter, rather. Something about one of the moons of Saturn as well, if I remember correctly. I know the rings of Saturn have sometimes spit out a spaceship that comes and goes. I don't know if that's a hoax or not, but hopefully I answered that question as to how many planets in our solar system are inhabited. Again, I don't know any of this for sure. It's just things I've picked up on, I've heard reports on, I've watched documentaries on, and these guys are convinced, but who knows what their sources are ETs from other dimensions. We're a little off the topic, but I'm more than willing. We got 2 hours. I'm more than willing to entertain this. We can always come back to the interest in battlefields and war zones and bases that UFOs and aliens seem to be interested in. So are they? Oh, I forgot to mute my phone. What a dipstick. It's silly. You have to enter your passcode to turn off your ringer. Okay, where do I stand on? I think there's a combination. It's a combination answer, because why are we seeing craft? Why are we talking to aliens, for that matter, who quite clearly use star travel? We see them shoot up to the sky and zip off at warp speed, if you want to call it warp speed. I'll just use that term because I can. And then still others say, oh, they just suddenly appeared. Well, I would think they had some sort of cloaking technology anyway, because you can't just hover over a city unabated. So you're gonna spook the natives, so to speak, and all that fun stuff. Is the interdimensional thing happening? I think there's probably some of that happening. If the Bigfoot can do it, as reported by an expert on my show in the book Bigfoot, Ron, whose name suddenly escapes me. Yeah. I don't see why not. Or are they escaping? Are they just cloaking? See, we just don't know. Not really. And so I think the dimensional thing is not as prevalent as you might think. I think what may be happening more than anything when you're talking about interdimensional activity is breaches. Like at Skinwalker Ranch, for example, that big dire wolf came out of nowhere in like 60, 61, something like that, back when it was still just a ranch. And it was relatively friendly. Like it was a giant domesticated dog, but it was a dire wolf. The thing was huge. And a .357 Magnum wouldn't stop it. And then it runs off into the woods, kind of like what the Bigfoot do sometimes, and is gone. Zero trace, Nothing. So I think there's a dimensional thing, a dimensional capability, and they're probably right next door to us reality-wise. And they could probably go, I don't know, how many ever dimensions deep they need to, one direction or another, and get whatever it is they need, scritches from their master, or go hunt a rabbit. I don't know. This could also explain Greek mythology and their creatures. Maybe there was a tear or an overlap of these dimensional things happening that allowed these creatures to seep through, influence humans, interact with humans, and so on and so forth. But allow me to kind of, I got to scan some of this stuff. And I'm catching up on the chat. My apologies. So PW continues to explain that Al Belalik said the Tall Greys were in charge of the Montauk base. That could very well be. We recently, I had it on, didn't have on the show, but I featured on this show Bryce. Oh gosh, I'm horrible with names. He was a Hollywood producer who saw the Tall Whites up in Orcas Island. So if the Tall Greys run that one, it doesn't surprise me that the Nordics run another base somewhere, and maybe they hang out again. I think I heard somewhere that they mended ways and they're working together now to one degree or another. So, teleport to Mars. Oh, I know that one. Yeah. I do know about that. That was fascinating. If I remember correctly, PW, that particular story happens. It starts anyway. Some secret program. We're talking MK Ultra or something like that, or something along those lines. It wasn't that program, but but they go to a building in LA, and I think that building is a 4-story building, nondescript, fenced off for the most part, even graffitied. It looks abandoned, but it's not. It's a 4-story building. It's on Figueroa somewhere. I remember he said that. Somewhere in Figueroa. And basically, the entire building serves as a teleportation device. You walk in, you go up one floor, and you're in this massive complex that takes up pretty much the entire interior of this building. The elevator goes up, and when it goes up, that's the teleportation process. It's barely visible. There's a lot of noise and winding, a lot of energy being pumped through. But I mean, as soon as it reaches the second floor, between 1 and 2, or 2 and 3 rather, you're teleported to Mars. And there's a very similar construct there. And you walk around on Mars. The air is super freaking thin, apparently. But yeah, apparently you could do it. And there's weird hybrids there where they tried to make humans able to breathe Martian air, and they basically got turned into lesser animals of some sort. Like they're like dogs, and their eyes are a little bugged out, and they have basic responses. Like a dog, sit, stay, roll over, the whole thing. And they even have what is it? Some dwellings of some sort that are basically shaped out of the surrounding rock area, like slabs of stone put together, like in Earsat Stonehenge or Fred Flintstone's house, if you want to take it that far. And I guess people and caretakers can live and or retire there. That's fun. And you can have a mutated human pet if you really want to. Who knows? But they're living apparently in older. There was a civilization there before, and they're living in like some of the older structures there. Interesting. Also, if you see a face on Mars. Now, I'm not talking the face on Mars, although that's one of them apparently. But if you see faces carved into the sides of some of these cliffs, that's a teleportation gateway. Or not a teleportation gateway, excuse me. That's a base gateway. Can you believe that? That's fascinating. That story got weirder and weirder the more he told it. In the chat we have from Polar Knights. I get the government, not like they can say publicly, it is races that are some from us technology-wise. Oh, I say, okay, I get it. Yeah. They're gonna back engineer stuff, and we can't say, yeah, we got this from that guy who visited us from Venus back in '61. It's pretty cool, right? Yeah. So obviously we can't do that. So we're gonna have to. Well, oh yeah, the Tic Tac was just confirmed as being a Lockheed Martin thing. They tried it out on our military. Didn't tell them a thing. Same thing with the triangles. Did you see the new Lockheed Martin commercial that actually features? Was it the TB-34 or something like that? My goodness. So the secrets are coming out, kids. We're probably a gazillion so-called light years ahead of that in reality, like in the DARPA world or something like that. So the fact that some of the 37Bs, gosh, I can't remember what they're called, those TR triangle ships, ours, and quasi-confirmed by a Lockheed freaking commercial. Can you believe that? Isn't that great? IMO Mars, the moon, other moons at least. People have filmed UFOs on the moon. Oh yeah. People have filmed the what do they call that? The solar warden ships. Let me show you a picture of that. And let me toy with that a little. There we go. So you remember talking about the Hillenkotter, about how a couple of Air Force sentries accidentally walked through the cloaking field of this ship as it was being loaded with supplies. And I'm talking about the one up top here. Well, that's part of the Solar Warden space fleet, apparently. And said space fleet is supposed to have a ton of like little escort ships, and there's that one shot. It's not the most close-up thing in the world, but the moon takes up most of the screen, and you can see these ships traveling, and some are really long, just like the Hillenkotter we saw there, and some are shorter, and that's described by the files that British hacker Gary McKinnon pulled out of the Pentagon back in like 2002. So yeah, I mean there were big capital ships and little escort ships, just like we have in the Navy. We have the big carriers and the destroyers and missile ships and stuff like that. So yeah, that was yeah. Interesting. IMO Mars. Yeah, I'm sorry. We were talking about spaceships, and I think Ron Moorhead. Thank you very much, Heidi. Ron Moorhead was the Bigfoot. I don't know why I have trouble remembering his name. It's not like it's the hardest name in the world or something. But Polar Nights goes on to say, "Whoops, I clicked me and wrong buttons, right?" I have no doubt that it is aliens, but the gray, I believe, are the biological drones, and their bases are automated or drone bases. The way I hear it, there are two types of grays, at least. If you believe Elena Danan, whose first name I finally remembered, and look at her experiences and the map she's drawn up of the local star system, including us, sector, including us in this galaxy, There are myriads of gray types. Some are independent. Some are drones that have broken away from their programming and become free, independent individuals, which is kind of cool in its own right. And others they're gray-like, but they're not. They have a similar evolution. They're kind of skinny and they got the oversized heads, but they have regular eyes like we do. Regular eyes. I'm sorry. I'm being a little disparaging there, but humanoid eyes. Not covered over with a black membrane. Anyway. So from my understanding, it's the little guys that are the drones, and all the taller grays or gray-like creatures are fully cognizant, sentient beings like we are, with some advanced tech and maybe telepathy. And for some reason, they don't like clothes, or if they do, they're really tight spacesuits, which I guess makes sense. We have those too. Sorry, again, this is all chat catch up. So PW goes on to say that he had a 3-hour window of missing time in the woods, an abduction memory, but he's not sure if it's from watching movies and or the cryptids causing some missing time or something like that. Haven't done the hypnosis yet. I would recommend it if you can find a person who will do that. You could even go to, say, iCar or MUFON. I prefer iCar personally, and see if they can help you out getting in touch with someone, and they may even cover the cost. So something worth checking out there. Just if you need that cemented in your for your own edification. Probably make a good story too. Have you on the show. Heidi telling me about Ron Moorhead because she's awesome. Okay, this is great. This is a great story. For me, it sort of makes sense of why they don't land and reveal themselves to the human race. True. I get that too. I wouldn't want to. You know what? I'm reminded just now of an episode of Love, Death, and Robots? It was off their new season, and that was the premise of their first episode. It was shot in like a miniature claymation kind of deal in that perspective, and it was almost comical. There were elements that were comical. So these aliens land. We're here to offer peace and yada, yada, yada. Okay, sounds good. So the saucer lands and they're talking to a bunch of cops. Those are the first ones to encounter them. And so there's two little aliens that kind of scurry about and yada, yada, and so forth. And the big alien comes out and gives his speech. And he moves his cape to the side, and I can't remember what set him off, but he says he has a gun. Now, I don't know if it was his tackle or if he actually had a weapon, which makes sense if he did. But the police all level them, just open up and just completely take them out. The ship somehow detects that its crew is dead, sends out a signal, and initiates alien invasion, which ends up resulting in the death of the entire planet, even going so far as perhaps even the solar system. I mean, it's something right out of the third Back to the Future, where Doc Brown says that it could just destroy the city or it could destroy this part of the galaxy. I'm just not sure which when something goes awry. So you zoom out to the galaxy, just a little boop, little explosion in one corner of it. Anyway, I digress. So Love, Death, and Robots. Yeah, and I get it too. You really have to choose your landing point, and that's why you send an advanced team to talk to officials, military, Congress, whatever. Landing on the White House lawn, for example, unless it's by invitation, would probably be catastrophic if you think about it. Anyway, PW has more. Teleportation may be. Well, we're going to theoretical stuff. The teleportation may be mini black holes technology. People describe portals being a black hole. You could make that argument, but I would suggest that's not necessarily the case. There might be micro black hole technology. I'm reminded of the story of, I think it's John Timor, who was supposed to be a time traveler who lived in Florida. Right now, he's about 17 years old, according to the story. So he traveled back from nowish. Okay, so whatever his reality was, assuming he was real and not a hoax, again, working on that assumption, we avoided that timeline, which was wholly catastrophic. And so these rebels find this device that is, and they pull it out of a military base. It's been, yada yada yada, and we're living in so about this time, according to John Timor's story. Right now, it should be apocalyptic craters and burned cities and everything's messed up and just a few pockets of survivors here and there. And his team finds a device, and in particular, I think at DARPA, they go into DARPA's been blown all the hell, and they go in there, they pull out this device, and it's run by 2 cesium clocks that sync up in such a way and deliver a laser beam that meets but kind of off a little bit, and that creates a microsingularity. And that microsingularity creates enough of a gravitational bubble around a given person or craft or vehicle. In their case, 1970s muscle cars that they have somehow restored, at least in one case. Excuse me. And it teleports it back. So use of microsingularities is not a new idea. Are they black holes per se? I guess you could say they're certainly singularities. Whether they have the full power of even a micro black hole would be it's not outside the realm of possibility. So are they all black holes? I can't say that for certain. Does the theory hold up? It does. Yeah. Okay, sorry. PW echoes my story to a degree. No weird genetic hybrids there. Yeah, they were trying to apparently adapt humans to be able to breathe on Earth, and then it failed. And he's blind now. Well, that's sad. I'm sorry. It's weird how some cryptids, I'll add some cryptids are seen at cemeteries. Bigfoot are seen all over the place. So are dogmen and or werewolves. Same thing with vampires, not necessarily graveyards, but or cemeteries. So I don't know. There's something to that, I guess. But I haven't heard of that. It's always cemeteries that they show up at. Once in a while, but you used to work with. Okay, hold on. Odd vibe from Heidi used to work at Lockheed or work with people from Lockheed, and they had an odd vibe to them. Having worked at NASA, which was next to Lockheed, at least that might be. I can verify that there was a lot of cross traffic. P.S. Back to more alien stuff. PW's got the alien stuff on the mind today. That's great. In general consensus is that reptilians run the planet, and they are Satan in the Bible. Angels use chariots of fire, aka UFOs. You could talk to the Renaissance painters about that, why they stuck angels inside craft. Yeah, I mean, you can't really unless you're like my partner JJ. Yeah, I don't know that because the reptilians actually come from a specific planet, what we call Draco, and the reason it's named Draco is because people came down from Draco, reptilians, and said, "Hey, this is the star we're from. Oh, great, we'll call that Draco." Ta-da! They may have had a presence here for a very long time in Los Angeles Times or whatever it was called back then in the 20s. Verified that. All but verified that. Actually, for my money, they did verify it because they sent an expedition down. Anyway, I don't necessarily believe in or take that into the heaviest stock that the reptilians are, in fact, demons or part of Satan's army or stuff like that. Although, as I reflect, I had Barbara, oh, forgive me, I'm forgetting names again. Barbara and her husband, both psychologists or psychiatrists, anyway, were on the show. And hardened scientific guys up until they had their own awakening experience where they were, I don't know, they gained the ability independently to communicate with spirits, energies, people of energy, people using psychic abilities to either talk through and or inhabit or what have you through various people, like a type of temporary possession kind of a thing. Elena Denon, for example, they follow her. They're very much in her, follow what she's putting out there. And it's odd because we actually do have a planet where the Dracos come from and all that fun stuff. As I was saying, but in one of their hypnosis sessions, regressing an experiencer who had a near-death experience, he walks him to, and it's kind of the typical thing with a lot of near-death experiencers. Not all of them. Some of them go right to the light and they see the bright tunnel and they say, not time for you yet, and they get pushed back into their bodies. Others go to like a limbo, like a waiting station, and it's supposedly hell adjacent. And everyone is kind of in shadow, or like they're shadow versions of everything else. Kind of like the shadow people, but more tangible. And a lot of them report seeing Jesus Christ, and a lot of them report seeing devils, classic devils with the horns and everything. And some, including those interviewed by these two, regressed by these psychiatrists, reported seeing reptilians, the big bad Dracos, apparently, with the wings and tails. Apparently, those are the real bad ones. There are reptilians that are actually kind of nice. Apparently, some of those are on Mars or colonized or started a colony on Mars at one point. Again, this is just third-party reporting, but there's a massive, there is a presence. There's a presence on this planet, including, and in fact, David Grush semi-confirmed that. It's like, here they are. It's reptilians, greys, Nordics, insectoids, and plasmoids that are mostly in contact with us. Top 5. If this were the David Letterman show, that would be super funny. But he had top 10. But anyway, you know where I'm going with it. So yeah. Whether they run the planet or not, I'm sure there's influence. Do this or else. What are we going to do to stop them? Not much. Oh, that's good, Heidi. I don't know that I'd necessarily share that for, I don't want to give too much of your personal information out. PW goes on to say he saw Bigfoots outside the cemetery. We're going back to a cemetery idea. That is known for dogman sightings. Interesting. In the daytime, outside the school. Wow, that's rare. They were camped in the woods. I saw them cloak. That's like the Predator movie. Yeah, I've heard that. There was a few different documentaries. One of them I saw where this lady was in a tree blind. I guess she was deer hunting. And she looked across at a set of trees not too far away from her, something like 10, 20 yards. And she thought she had what she called a mote in her eye. You know, when one of your eyes goes kind of funny and, you know, this discharge kind of coats it. And I don't mean floaties necessarily, but like, you know, you got to rub your eyes because you're getting tired, man. Basically, that's all it is. And, you know, some discharge lines up in your eye before it turns to the crusty. I didn't mean to flip you off. Before it turns to the crusty stuff in your eye. So she thought that's what it was, but she couldn't blink it out. She couldn't rub it away. And then the mote, she realized, was in both of her eyes because she's got the affected one because she's seen the thing like this. And she goes like this and she rubs one eye. She could still see the mote with the clearer eye. And it goes woo, like that. And she says something was in the trees across the way. And it made a ruckus going through them, too. Once it noticed her seeing it, even through the cloak. Because I guess the distortion was enough that it didn't completely block out the outline of them. Like you said, like the Predator. So that's pretty cool, PW. That's a neat thing. You've got to bring your cell phone with you. Just keep it rolling, man. Or have one of those cameras, you know, those AI cameras now, kind of like a body cam. That might be an expense you can't take on right now, but I'm just saying, if you have an ability to pull it off, that might be a good idea, especially if you're seeing stuff like this all the time. Interesting. I'm going to go back to something I missed. PW has oh, okay. Okay, PW, we're gonna start off with this statement you gave us. That Stan Gordon invasion of Chestnut sites a UFO wave before Bigfoot show up. Now, the opposite happened in Ohio of this year. I'd say around March or April, maybe even May. No, it was March or April, and there's this huge flap of UFO sightings and then Bigfoot sightings. Oh, maybe it is the way you put it. Yeah, that's right. Or was it the other way around? You know what, PW, will say you're right. Because honestly, I can't remember at the top of my head right now. But yeah, having that, they do seem to coincide. And there's this huge flap of both. And the Bigfoot seemed to be moving north through up to Canada. Now, a few months later, end of May, June, something like that, another flap of UFOs and Bigfoot happened in Wisconsin as they were coming back down. So that's a loop. Ohio through Canada to Wisconsin. I'd be interested to hear the Canadian version of all that. So good stuff. Found the hypnotist. Oh, that's good. I'll put that up next. For $189 a session. She's in the UK, yeah. Family abduction. It was on TV called High Bentham UFO Incident. I remember the name. I don't remember the incident per se. But I don't know. If you can afford it, go for it. Otherwise, again, ICAR, I think they're international. I think MUFON is international too. Or if the UK has their own version of that, maybe they'll help you out too. That's just a suggestion. And then goes on to going back to the DARPA teleporter idea. I guess the one in Figueroa. Or she heard about one at DARPA that was made of bismuth. Bismuth is interesting. It's a weird conductor. It can even conduct exotic material, exotic energy. So it's kind of cool. Pentagrams and witchcraft seem to open a portal. I couldn't speak to the witchcraft thing. Mostly, it seemed very, very technological, and bismuth being involved, crystalline or otherwise, that could be part of that Figueroa thing. I couldn't speak to that, to be completely honest with you. But and I couldn't speak to witchcraft either. Although I will say, over the years, all of us collectively, to one degree or another, have witnessed some very intriguing things when it comes to humans throwing absolute 100% intent into a given idea, target, goal. I cite a magician who had a special on the real magic of the world, and one of them was this. I've talked about this before. This Buddhist monk who could levitate, crisscross applesauce style, cross legs, about 4 or 5 inches off the ground. And this guy was amazed. All he did was focus, and he had his little beads in his hand, and he was going and chanting under his breath, and he'd levitate, and it was great. He says, yeah, that was it. I was going to say something in addition to that, but it doesn't make sense. So good stuff. You know what, folks? We're a little late for the break, so we'll do some station identification and some commercials, and we'll be back right after this. This is the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 in the Gulf Coast. UPRN talkradio.com. Esoteric programming at its finest.
Long ago in the ancient world, the Tribus Omnis Lux, later known as the Tridents, were celebrated heroes, defenders of humanity against unspeakable monsters. Today, they continue that sacred duty in secret, hunting the dark evils that lurk just beyond the shadows. They are the Trident of Light.
Introducing Story TV, enabling true creative freedom for independent creators. Search an ever-growing library of fantastic festival winners, including Blaney Tucker's Ghost and the Monster Hunters of the TOL. Free to enjoy at lower resolutions. Pay $5 per month for 1080 and full K presentations to support the artists you enjoy. Your monthly contribution actually goes to the filmmakers themselves. Support independent film. Support Story TV. Check out our Patreon. Get deeper behind-the-scenes insights. Also, tips into being a better paranormal investigator and other fascinating content. Follow us on Instagram at paranormal.insight. Stay informed on upcoming shows, see what paranormal trends we're following, and help us reach 50,000 followers by liking, following, and sharing. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at paranormal_insight. Click the live tab to see our latest videos. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. Want to add one more note. We are looking for sponsors. We're going to be removing some of the sponsors you just saw and adding more. And we have a couple extra slots. So if you or someone you know has a product that needs sponsorship, we reach, and this is a newer number now, we reach approximately 600. And the last one was 620,000. But we reach well over 600,000 people worldwide. So if you have a product that can reach even a small section of that, we have a huge audience for you to take advantage. Take advantage of. No, to to sell to. take advantage. Tim, you're just going to lose sales by saying stuff like that. Anyway, let's get back to some paranormal stuff here. And thank you, Heidi, for welcoming me back. Let's hop back on our original thing, which was the fact that these things love these UFOs and these aliens seem to love it when we go to combat with one another, and they like to hang out over our bases and stuff, especially the ones with nuclear material. You will recall Rendlesham Forest in the UK. That was a U.S. air base in the UK, I think in 1980. That was like for lack of a buzzed, not assaulted, but buzzed for days. And they were, they'd see laser beams shoot down to their nuclear pile of these weapons, right? And scanning them, and then they couldn't do anything about it. Weird lights in the forest right next to the base. They sent soldiers out to check on it, and it was all kinds of crazy stuff. And a lot of the soldiers, two of the soldiers saw some fantastic things, and one even under hypnosis remembered a sequence of a binary sequence, ones and zeros, which ended up being a map of various but essentially ley line around the equator of all things, where certain points of energy really kind of converged. PW has some interesting religious stuff to share. I'm not sure how that really lays into what we're talking about here, but I can come back to that in a little bit. But so Rendlesham Forest, they had their thing in 1980, but those aren't the only two incidents. There's the one in Russia I told you about, roughly the same year as Minot Air Base in 1966. There's also the British Air Base, Bentwaters, and Woodbridge. I think they were joint bases. They were right next to each other. One was Air Corps, one was Navy Airfield. Don't quote me on that. Same thing. They were storing nuclear weapons. That seems to be the thing. They like our nuclear stuff. And I guess they're wondering, but why hover over battlefields? Because, interesting point. The latest tranche of UFO files that dropped from the government, this is the fifth one. Most of the videos anyway, are from Qatar. Not a lot of stuff happening in Qatar per se, but most of it from 2019 to 2022. And I think there was some weird activity there. I think there is a nuclear presence there, whether it's ours or Qatar's itself. But nonetheless, they were, for lack of a better term, harassed. Not really harassed, but there's a lot of stuff happening there. RF Bridgewater, same thing, nuclear stuff. So it's just interesting to note that these things just seem to really like it when we fight each other or have the ability to fight each other to the point of annihilating ourselves. And either they shut it down, which is weird. Okay. So they shut it down or they scan it and potentially deactivate it. Someone brought up recently that image. I can't remember if it's a Russian rocket or an American rocket. It was a test of an ICBM, and the saucer comes in and hits it with these different beams, and then the rocket explodes. My take on that is that it was faked, and here's why. A few of those beams do what you would expect a beam weapon of whatever type to do. It goes from the object, which seemed to be saucer-like, to the nose cone of this thing directionally. In one or two instances, it goes back. So the beam fires out and then back traces to the UFO, like it was retracting the beam. That's not how beam energy works. Maybe they have an advanced version of it. I don't know. But as far as I know, that's not how beam energy or energy that's compressed into a beam really works. So I have my doubts about that particular piece of footage. Detonating a warhead mid-flight was, maybe still is, a common practice. Not because the warhead was live, but you need to test the abort system. So we abort, hit the button, the nose cone should blow apart, and the nuclear material would come down the chute. And so that's my take on that. Well, I will say this, PW, it's certainly evil. If Satanists are involved, I couldn't really speak to that, but it wouldn't surprise me. We had an out in front of everybody, had a guest shot on Oprah, for crying out loud. We had a general in the U.S. Army who was full-on Satanist. Full-on. I would question any and all orders from that particular general. He's retired now, maybe dead even, because this is back in the, I don't know, early mid-'80s, or maybe mid-'80s to late 80s. Anyway, Satanist generals out in the open. So again, PW makes a point. It could very well be that case, and as he said in his previous post, which I'll share it, albeit reluctantly, just for I'm reluctant because I'm trying not to make this terribly religious experience for my audience. I mean, religion does play a factor to a degree in some paranormal stuff, especially when you're talking about angel appearances and miracles and stuff like that. Come back to defeat Satan and the fallen angels, which I thought was supposed to be taken care of during the flood, but as far as the fallen angels go, but I guess a few got missed. And if we are to take into account multiple allied soldiers and their groups and country, the countries they represent, saying the exact same thing, that these really tall dudes were interacting with Taliban. I mean, they stood at least 8 to 10 foot tall. And then there's that great video. Oh man, I wish I had the foresight to put that up. If I knew we were going this direction, I would have brought it up. But Mr. Beast had an interview somewhere. I think it was in Africa somewhere. And he gets distracted by these two dudes in the audience. He says, when I'm really fat, I'm sorry, I hate to sidetrack everyone, he says, but I'm locked in on these two dudes. They're really tall. We should have them up on stage. And so help me, I think, let me do a quick internet search, because I think Mr. Beast is about 6 foot. How tall is Mr. Beast? He is 6'4" himself. These dudes had to easily be. Oh, he was literally half their size, so they were 10 to 12 foot tall. Oh my goodness, big dudes. African complexion, like you would expect in Africa. Wearing regular old street clothes that were super huge. But they were wearing t-shirts and jeans and shorts or something like that. And they went to shake hands. And it was like, if this is Mr. Beast's hand, this is their hand. But this is live. This is a real thing. So the giants are real and they're still among us, and so why hide that? Mr. Beast just put it on Front Street for everybody. So, why are we hiding that? Are they fallen angels? I couldn't speak to that one way or another, but giant human beings have been around for a long while. There was that bone, that finger bone, found in the apparent graveyard of where Moses himself was buried. They found a big old knuckle bone. They dug around. They found more skeletal parts related to that. And multiple people, apparently, of gargantuan size, very much like these two individuals that showed up in the Mr. Beast interview. And, that would suggest that Moses and his people were of that grand stature, but then that makes the whole fallen angel Nephilim thing kind of fall apart. So something tells me big people have been around for a very, very long time, and it's not the biggest deal in the world because, and we have basketball players, and we also have these two enormous 10-foot tall guys, maybe even 12-foot tall guys on the Mr. Beast interview. It's just amazing. That was just, I was laughing my butt off at the differential between these two big dudes and Mr. Beast. He's 6'4". He's 6'4". So, I don't know. PW, you should start your own podcast. You have a lot of stuff. For instance, I don't know who. Oh, Skinny Bob was the alien, right? Okay, now I know what you're talking about. So Skinny Bob, Patterson film. I totally believe in the Patterson Gilman Bigfoot. That's absolutely authentic, in my opinion. Very hard to fake that, especially when you're monster. The guy, because they were doing a fictional film. They were just shooting footage just to say, here's where we want to shoot. They were just doing location stuff like you do when you make a film. Take it from a filmmaker. And the Idaho pterodactyl, I think I've seen that too. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it looked authentic. But Patterson Gimlin, for sure, again, in my opinion, but professional opinion, I will add, is real. Is very much real. And we know these creatures exist. We've only seen them a gazillion times on personal audio, personal videos and stuff. And some of it's faked and some of it's not. And some of it's AI and some of it's not. So, But someone actually put forth that the reason we're seeing so many fakes. So, and it's very much like that 1953 thing that I got so upset at. You think you're seeing something, but you saw a TV show before you saw that, so it was in your imagination, and you put it out there. That was one of the techniques. Or you saw swamp gas reflecting the light from Venus or something like that, which is stupid. Anyway, but going back to my thought on that was that a lot of these fakes are out there to dismiss the real ones. And it's up to you to figure it out. And maybe that's why they're pushing AI to get so much better. So I think that's AI, but now there's AI detectors, but those can be fooled. Now there's better AI detectors, but soon those will be able to be fooled. So where does the stupidity on all that end? They just tell us everything, because keeping these secrets has got to be super expensive, globally speaking. Just let it all out there. People gonna freak out. Let them freak out. Honestly, I don't think they're gonna riot like they think. Not at all. Not at all. And even if it did a saucer land on the White House lawn, surprise a few people. Especially if it wasn't announced to the president and his people ahead of time. But a lot of folks are going to go, I knew it. I think they'd be celebrated, to be honest, for the most part. That's my opinion. The flood was to kill the Nephilim. Yeah, I knew that part. They survived Genesis 6. Interesting. Some fallen angels were put into the abyss. at the flood. Interesting. Demons are embodied Nephilim. I thought they were fallen angels. Does that make them demons? I'm a horrible Catholic. I guess I don't know that. Cryptids are Nephilim, animal hybrids. I don't necessarily land on that page. I think each individual type of cryptid has its own origin. And that, again, I think if we're going to talk about dimensional aliens, we might be talking about, I'd say, at least 50 to 60% of our cryptids out there to one degree or another. So I don't necessarily fall in line with that particular train of thought, but I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. But we're supposed to be talking about why UFOs are so interested in our wars. One thing, well, here's the interesting thing. If 47 was a test flight that failed with human pilots, as our very own Joe Montaldo maintains, strongly maintains. He, it's theoretical, but that's the best one he got. It's the best theory he could come up with, based on the fact that basically with these gray type craft, like the one Bill Lazar, Bill's his brother. I'm kidding. Bob Lazar worked on. He said they had the handprint devices. You do that there, you're able to, and through neural networking, you're able to tell the ship what to do. Pretty fun. So if you give a human, especially, I don't know how well tested these guys are. I can only imagine that input equals output. So whatever they saw, whatever they inputted, came back to them in their brains. I don't think they had a full-on, Star Trek visor. It was a window. Or maybe they did. Because I remember Bob Lazar mentioning that there was stuff, there was like a tactical display in an alien language on one side. So maybe they did, and maybe they just freaked out because they said, focus, 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 and they open their eyes to see what's happening because they're pilots, and that's what you do. And that's when they freak out and crash the thing. But then I don't know. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of conflicts when it comes to this whole phenomenon. I've said it before. Benny and Barney Hill were under surveillance because they had ties to Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King had some socialist leanings. Was he a direct communist? I couldn't speak to that. Honestly, I don't know. If that's documented somewhere, I'm unaware of it. But apparently some of the things he was saying sounded more socialist of the government, and they didn't like that so much. So they had him and those he was influencing. And Barney Hill was a leader in that whole thing. Being watched. Now, they're abducted. Aliens, little grays, although they looked a little different than the grays we're used to. Although they did kind of resemble the main gray in see, do I have him here? Kind of resembled them in Close Encounters. That's this guy. So they kind of resemble this guy more than the classic little gray dudes here, which is interesting. So this is also from Close Encounters. But so advanced spaceship, advanced stuff, but then they use hypodermic needles. That's one point of collision for me. You think an advanced species would have something more akin to, and we even had them back in 61. They they're being developed at the very least, because we had them 10 years later. The jet injectors, like you see from Star Trek, right? Why not use something like that, or even more advanced? That would just, you do this and it just sucks out the blood or injects the blood any way you need to. But I digress. So there's then there's the human. I'll say the human, because not just us have been it is not just us that have been developing our own types of UFOs. The TR-38B, or whatever it's called, is a prime example of that. And again, just advertised in a Lockheed commercial. It's freaking great. It's a blink if you miss it thing, but it's prominent at the same time. But anyway, so we've been, other countries have taken either crash retrieved ships or have a deal with an alien something somewhere where they get ships or technology or something like that from an alien species, be they gray or Nordic or insectoid or whatever, and have come up with their own versions of UFOs. Nazi Germany had their own version of UFOs. Flying gunship, it didn't work too good. We tried to make our own version of UFO publicly, but in secret, we were just reverse engineering existing UFOs to make our own UFOs. And that's happened, I think, globally to one degree or another. So, yeah. Draw a conclusion from that. PW has some more information to feed us. That's fine. The paracryptids seem to be spliced from earth animals like gorillas, wolves, chimpanzees, hyenas, and so forth. Other cryptids seem to be dinosaurs with no alien abilities. Huh. It's funny you mentioned dinosaurs. I lock onto this really intriguing piece of video. It could have been CGI. It wasn't very clear. But so sorry. It's from Florida, and it's from like maybe 5 years ago. Someone's security cameras pointed out. Oh my gosh. Some person's security cameras pointed out in the back yard, and it gets tripped, and when they watch it going by, they see a bipedal lizard very much like a T-Rex or even a velociraptor go screaming through. And the funny thing is, it has an infrared colored patch on its back that helps illuminate it a little bit, but you'd have to have infrared vision that presumably to see it. But there's this weird like cow patch, not a cow poop patch, but how cows have the patchy coloring. It was like that, but it was one on the back, and it was infrared colored, something that the cameras could really reflect on. It was reflective. It was bizarre. So it wouldn't surprise me if certain species, heck, gators have existed forever, so why not other things? We thought giant tarantulas were a thing of mystery until we found the bird eaters the length of my arm. I'm a 6 foot tall man, so the length of my arm is roughly 2.5 feet, 2 feet. Okay, maybe less than 2 feet, but anyway, size of a forearm. Basically, it's my house cat with 8 legs, because she could lay on my entire forearm with her head in my hand. And, So, house cat with 8 legs, basically, crawling around in the wilds of the Amazon. Good times. And OPW has a abduction recollection related to... my abduction memory is waking up to a gray putting a needle in my eye. Oh my gosh, that's my worst nightmare, man. Well, thanks. I'll have nightmares about that for the next few weeks. Wow. Oh, Star Trek. Uh, uh, the one where the Borg invade Earth in the past. I'm drawing a blank on it for some reason. I love that movie. But they have that one point, and when the needle gets right to the eye before it penetrates, gives me the willies every single time. Anyway, but they had a hypodermic needle too. You could tell because it was an angled cut to the metal tube. So maybe hypodermics are still viable even in the future. That just strikes me as odd, though. Yeah, so maybe futuristic type folks still rely on older technologies just because it works, I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But still. Anyway. PW. That's a lot of information. Okay, I'll share it. Why not? You should watch Sightings. Yeah, good show. So after his missing time unit, there was a kid he was watching a TV with. I guess this show. And then he had a missing time event, and the kid apparently was with him. That's my guess. Had blood in the urine all of a sudden. That usually comes from something heavy in the way of an abdominal strike, impact of some sort. So if they were picked up and dropped off, that has happened before. So there's a number of reports where they're in a hurry for some reason, quick, drop them off, and they're let go like 10 foot in the air, and they have to have these hard falls in the like they're in the middle of nowhere, and it's kind of crazy stuff. But getting back to the battlefield, there have, even in the most this recent war, everyone's involved with the two wars. There's the one in Ukraine, the one in Iran. There's been a flurry of activity in and around those theaters of battle, which is weird, man. I mean, it's bizarre. And now we have the Perseid shower happening overhead. Perseid or Pleiades? No, I can't remember. It's a meteor shower, and it's happening. And it is, so that's adding to a lot of confusion. But, and we've seen that, there was one video where there was just a fleet of these little things, and it could have been drones, but they didn't look like it. It was just a wave. Oh, so sorry. Talk yawn. Anyway, it was bizarre. That was just crazy. And then we've seen the stuff Jeremy Corbell has released regarding undisclosed Middle East bases where the jellyfish, quote unquote, UFO has cruised over. And funny thing about the jellyfish UFO, not the only time something like that's been seen in various locations across the globe, but it seems to be a pilot in some sort of jump jet or I don't know, like a flying mechanism, a flight mechanism. Found that kind of interesting too. Golly, so sorry. The yawns are hitting me big time. But yeah, yeah, what is it about military bases and battle zones that attract these things? Are they maybe they have, people they've abducted in the past in these zones and they're checking them out. You never know. Maybe they have an interest to see how far our weapons have progressed based on what technology they have accumulated from alien craft or reverse engineered from alien craft. So there's a number of possibilities, and that's only two. But you also have to wonder, and you could chalk it up to different people are built differently. Some will be able to transition, for example, from a wartime situation back into civilian life without any problems. Others don't. And I mention that because if I remember correctly, the ones that do transition early, some of them, like a lot of them, a large percentage, would later report as being abducted. So, I don't know. Okay, PW brings up an interesting question. Who are the friendliest aliens? That's a good question, actually. The Nordics, the Greys, the Mantids. You forgot about the Plasmoids and the other guys, reptilians. From what I gather, it's the Nordics. That's interesting because from what I have gathered, it is the Nordics they look down their noses at us. It's like, you're like us in so many ways, and yet you're not like us in so many ways. Go away, little Earth cousins. The Greys are kind of indifferent about us. Or basically just things to check out. Different types of animals on this crazy little globe where they don't seem to like each other very much. Region to region, which is bizarre. And maybe that's foreign to them because they probably have an entire planet of people just like themselves and they don't have these problems. Yet they're at war in their own right. If you take into account what those on Earth who have access or report to have access to the Galactic Federation, for example, that there are wars happening. They may not be fully conventional weaponized wars, but they're quasi cold wars, and sometimes it leads to weapons. But it's interesting. So the Greys are kind of, for what I understand, closer to kind of a cross between a bunch of science drones, I guess you can call them. They'll check in on certain people or whoever they like or whatever, and abduct them, run battery tests, maybe make them hold their hybrid child and then beam them back down. They're indifferent for the most part. The reptilians, I've heard two different theories from the reptilians. One from Joe Montaldo, our Uber boss here at the UPRN, one of the creators, if not he might be the head creator of the ICAR, UFO reporting system network. He, according to his research, because he has a brilliant thing he does. I've mentioned it on the show before. He has all of his abductees in his files ask questions next time they get abducted. Like they do a little mantra meditation thing every night, just in case it's their time to get abducted. And usually they know when it's going to happen, but he says, just think about it. Just keep repeating the question. And they always get an answer back. It's fascinating. So he's been able to build an intelligence file, and apparently, according to Joe and his research, The reptilians think we're cool. We're kind of like pets. We're their favorite cat in the whole world. Humans. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but at least they don't want to eat us. That was the opposite. That we are food to the reptilians, or to some of them anyway. So it kind of depends on what school of thought you lean into and who you think is telling the truth. When it comes to mantids and or ant people, this is kind of leading to your second question here in a little bit. So there was, it was a Gaia interview. Gosh, I can't remember. It was that fella who just passed too. He was a UFO researcher. He was fantastic. Blonde fella. His name completely escapes me. If you know, just put it in the chat. Anyway, so he's interviewing this guy that are working with, and now they called them the ant people, just like the Hopi people did. And apparently the ant people and or / the mantids are kind of interchangeable, or one and the same, or they work together or something like that. I can see the confusion, especially if you have an upright walking ant and or mantis-like creature. You're going to maybe make an assumption, especially if you see mandibles and antenna. But apparently these ant people were able to loop in humans that they were working with in these various underground bases into their network. So they make them feel like a part of the colony, if you will. And according to this one guy who's been being interviewed, he says it was one of them. I have never felt so loved in my life. Like he described it as being part of the tightest Marine unit you could possibly think of, without the combat, because they were building something or other anyway. So, and there was an incident underground where a portion of this, I guess they built their base into a rocky underground thing portion, and part of that collapsed, and some of these ant people were killed, and some humans were killed too, in this collapse. And apparently the level of mourning and weeping between the humans and the ant people who were looped into this network, this psychic network, this hive mind, were so emotionally enmeshed. They were, it was just, and the guy was actually choking up talking about it. He says, yeah, I'll never forget those sensations, those feelings, because they have emotions very much like us, and you wouldn't expect that from an insect type mind. So go figure on that. Yeah. David Ike. Gosh, was that him? Was that the guy? I'm so sorry. PW, I'm and folks at home, I'm horrible with names, as you know. I never remember everyone. Remember the names and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Was it Simon Parks I'm thinking of? I don't know. Good question. But it's still, the original topic of this episode was, what is the interest? Well, maybe that's half the interest. It could be intelligence. Since if we are to take into account and or what have you, the possibility, and apparently it's very, very likely now, with the Orcas Island thing we just heard about from the producer guy last week or the week before, and then David Icke and the reptilians, and guess Simon Parks and the Mantids and or Ant People, you just really start to see that some of these insiders have really experienced some fascinating stuff with these off-world people. And I think maybe if we are going to move forward as a species, and we're having some hard time with acceptance amongst our own people right now, which is unfortunate, to say the least. I think moving forward, we should at least be willing to be understanding and accepting of these non-human intelligences. That's a tongue twister for me. If we're going to be in contact with them on a regular basis, running into them at the grocery store, for example. I think I told you that weird daydream I keep getting. It's weird. It's like I go to a bizarre little hypnotic state every single time I go to the grocery store, that these tall reptilian-like guys, there's 3 of them, they're wearing these weird kind of cloaky trench coat looking things. They kind of remind me of the Sea Devils from Doctor Who, like third Doctor era. Anyway, but they're taller and they have this weird voice, this weird language. It's not weird, it's a language. And kind of guttural, and they sound like a bunch of bulldogs kind of whispering. It's bizarre. And they're trying to figure out what certain fruit is and stuff like that, and what the money situation is and stuff like that. And it's the same daydream every single time, maybe because this happens so often, I keep repeating the same scenario. But I keep seeing myself go up to them and say, what's going on? Do you need help? And I'm able to communicate with them. And I was like, yeah, we want to get this, but apparently we can't just leave with it. That's how, you got to go through the line and pay for it. Oh, how do we do that? And that's kind of where the dream ends, or the daydream ends. But it's weird. Every single time I go to the grocery store, I just kind of zone out for half a second, it seems, and then I'm back to reality. It's a bizarre experience, I have to say. I don't necessarily like it either, because I'm sure I'm getting goofball looks with these passersby. It's like, what's that weird doing the Air Force hat doing there? I wear my Air Force hat all the time. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to wrap it up. Now, we do have a few minutes left, something like 7 or 8. And if you have any final questions for PW, you've been coming up with some great questions and some great insights, I think, or questions and insights. So if you have any more of that, send it my way. Heidi, same for you. And of course, for Polar Knights. So actually, I think Polar Knights bowed out because he had to go to work. But that's okay. So last chance for questions, ladies and gentlemen. Please send them my way. Otherwise, I think we may have to bow out a touch early. Well, not too early. But lots of love to you too, Heidi. Thank you. I got all hearts in the chat. It was pretty cute. And but if we want to find and hang out with a bunch of aliens, and here's a scene from Star Wars behind the scenes there. Besides making movies about them, thank you, Heidi. I'm glad you like the show. So I think we need to really just say, you know what, you're different. Okay, what can you teach me? What can I teach you? Do you really want to know how to buy a cantaloupe at the local market? We can help each other out. As long as you give me a ride back to my house in your spaceship. Yeah. And the next daydream, maybe I'll negotiate that. But, so if we want to live in this world that I'm showing, or in part, these are just masks and hands that they created for the Star Wars Cantina scene. But they still represent. Okay, the ghost face here, I gotta say, is just too funny. It's like alien, Halloween mask, alien. Good times. Anyway, yeah, we need to kind of open ourselves up a little bit to experiencing vastly different cultures. But I think maybe the gateway, if we want to call them that, the gateway folks, even though they're not terribly fond of us by all reports, by most reports, the gateway folks are probably going to be the Nordics. They look like us. They're telepathic, apparently. They're bigger than us, but we have enough of a commonality. I would suspect that maybe they're a way in. So yeah, I expected that idea to float a lot longer. We still got 5 minutes left in the show. So again, any final thoughts or questions, send them my way. I will say that we, and I'm going to echo someone here, but maybe it's Leonard Nimoy now that I think of it. This may have been from, it's Dan Aykroyd. That's what it is. Back when he had a paranormal show, discussing all the weird and wonderful things here on Earth. He did. I think he went to UFOs once. The rest of it was mostly spiritual and stuff like that. You want to talk interdimensional? Wow, yeah, ghosts and stuff like that. That's probably an alternate dimensional state. But anyway, in this wonderful multiverse of ours, we have to be aware of the fact that what we know is limited. And not because we are being cut off from said knowledge necessarily, but because there's remote viewers can see stuff all over the place, And so it's not like there are any secrets really, but there are, not everyone's at that level. But in this wonderful multi-universe of ours, I think we need to be able to say when we see something bizarre and or strange, like the creatures here, for example, as an example. And I'm not talking about the puppeteers necessarily. I joke. I don't know them, but I joke. You guys are great. Yeah, we need to be just a little more open to new stuff. Our curiosity has carried us quite a long way. I think maybe we also need to look at it less as, oh gosh, that's weird. Oh, that's kind of scary looking. It's like, wow. Take it as a challenge. It's like, well, that's cool. Can you do this? Can your saucer do loop-to-loops? Probably could. We've seen them practice those a few times, especially over at Area 51. Various footage from there has bore that out. But so if we're going to go from, let's say, I'm going to bring this up again, from, flying saucers that we kind of took advantage, took as our own, to flying saucer-like things that are going to actually propel us through the stars. Although some scientists say this design wouldn't really work with current technology. Well, that's current technology. We'll probably get there eventually. I think we just need to keep ourselves more open, more available to the strange and weird and foreign and all that fun stuff, especially when it comes from outer space, alternate dimensions, and things and people that could probably actually benefit us. So keep your minds open, keep your hearts open. You can be cautious, but let's be cautiously optimistic. How's that? My name's Tim Sedano. This has been Paranormal Insight, and ladies and gentlemen, this has been my honor, and we'll see you next time on Paranormal Insight. Goodbye. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight podcast@gmail.com.